Picture the scene. It's the morning of February 25th, 2026. In the Swedish city of Malmö, something absolutely incredible is happening. The FS Charles de Gaulle, France's nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, the biggest, baddest warship in all of Europe, is sailing right into the Öresund Strait. I mean, this was a massive moment, a huge symbol of a brand new, stronger NATO. But while people were gathering on the shore to watch, something else was going on just above those icy Baltic waters. A different kind of fight was about to kick off. A silent, totally invisible war fought not with guns and missiles, but with radio waves. A Russian drone was getting dangerously close to the French flagship. And what happened next? Well, it pulls back the curtain on what war really looks like in the 21st century. And you're going to want to stay till the end because I'm going to reveal some pretty shocking things in this breakdown. All right, let's get back to it. Now, make no mistake, this was not some accident or a glitch. French officials came out swinging, calling it a ridiculous provocation. So you have to ask, why? Why would Russia risk such a bold, in-your-face confrontation? The answer, it turns out, reveals a much larger, much shadowier conflict being waged all across Europe. So here is how we're going to unpack all of this. We'll start with the confrontation itself and the French mission that brought this massive carrier to the Baltic in the first place. Then we'll get properly introduced to the Russian spy ship at the center of this. After that, we'll reconstruct the whole electronic standoff, second by second. And finally, we'll look at the political firestorm that followed and see how this one incident fits into this new kind of gray zone warfare. Okay, let's dive in and really set the stage. The players in this little high-stakes drama are 1. A cutting-edge French aircraft carrier, 2. A very specialized Russian spy ship, and 3. A single, unauthorized drone. The location? The Öresund Strait, a super narrow, critical waterway in the Baltic Sea. And the stakes? Well, they couldn't be higher. We're talking about a potential spark between nuclear-armed powers. So you're probably wondering, what on earth was the Charles de Gaulle even doing there, right? This wasn't just some friendly little port visit. No. Its presence in Sweden was a very deliberate, very powerful message. And it was part of a much, much bigger operation. See, the carrier is the absolute heart of this massive operation called Mission Lafayette 26. It's this huge show of force, and it's designed to do one thing and one thing only, to prove that the newly expanded NATO can totally secure Europe's northern borders and basically lock down the Baltic Sea, turning what used to be a contested sea into, for all intents and purposes, a NATO lake. And the carrier definitely wasn't traveling alone. It rolls deep with a full carrier strike group. You can basically think of it as a floating fortress. We're talking state-of-the-art frigates, nuclear attack submarines, and a whole fleet of support ships. So when this entire armada sailed into the Baltic, the signal to Moscow was crystal clear. The game has changed up here. And you better believe that signal was received loud and clear. Which brings us to player number 2 in this drama, the Russian spy ship, the Zhigulevsk. Now, this isn't your typical warship loaded with missiles. Its weapons are way more subtle. The Zhigulevsky is what's known as a Vishnya-class intelligence collector. That's a fancy way of saying it is just covered in antennas and sensors built for a single purpose, to listen. You can just think of it as a giant, floating ear designed to soak up every single electronic signal for miles around. And according to Swedish Vice Admiral Eva Skog Haslam, the Zhigulevsk wasn't just passing by. No, she said it was hunting. And what was its prey? The unique electronic signature of the Charles de Gaulle and its fighter jets. See, if Russia can record exactly how their radars work or how their jets talk to each other, they can figure out how to jam them or even fool them in a real fight down the road. Which brings us right back to that day, February 25th. The Charles de Gaulle is docked in Malmö. The Zhigulevsk is lurking nearby, with the Swedish patrol ship HMS Rapp shadowing its every move. The stage was perfectly set for a showdown, but this was a battle that was going to be fought completely in the invisible world of the electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, here is exactly how it went down play by play. First, a drone lifts off the deck of the Russian ship. Second, it immediately turns and makes a beeline straight for the French carrier. Now, the crew on that Swedish ship, the HMS Rapp, had a huge choice to make. Do they shoot it down and risk this whole thing blowing up? Or do they do nothing and let a Russian spy drone get right up to France's most sensitive military asset? Well, they chose door number 3. Their electronic warfare systems lit up, they launched a targeted electronic strike, and boom, they jammed the control link between the drone and its operator. The drone just disappeared, neutralized, without a single shot fired. I mean, this is such a perfect example of this new kind of warfare. And the French reaction? It was so calm, it was almost casual. A spokesperson just said, "This system showed it is robust." The message they didn't say out loud was clear. "We see you, we didn't even have to lift a finger. Our new Swedish allies handled your little provocation just fine." So, while the showdown at sea was silent and electronic, the political fallout was anything but. It was loud, it was immediate, and the war of words kicked off almost instantly as all three countries scrambled to control the story. So on one side, you have the West's reaction. Sweden's defense minister called it serious and irresponsible. Their prime minister said everything implies it is a Russian violation. And France, of course, called it a ridiculous provocation. And on the other side, well, it was the classic Kremlin playbook. Deny, deny, deny. Their spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, called the claims absurd. He even tried to say, hey, just because a Russian ship was nearby doesn't mean it was our drone. Right, but here's the thing about technical data. It doesn't lie, and it doesn't have a political agenda. Sweden later came out and confirmed that the electronic launch signature, that specific digital fingerprint that sends a drone into the air, came directly from the Gigalesk. This is a textbook example of a gray zone tactic. Do something aggressive, but do it just below the level of actual war, so you can try to deny you ever did it. And this is maybe the most crucial takeaway. This whole incident with the Charles de Gaulle, it wasn't just a one-off event. It's just one move in a much larger chess game. A widespread campaign of Russian hybrid warfare that is playing out across Northern Europe as we speak. I mean, just look at the pattern from early 2026. You've got Denmark warning about massive Russian interference in their elections. You've got Germany dealing with mysterious drones repeatedly shutting down major airports. And all over the Baltic, Russian ships are constantly surveying critical things like underwater data cables and pipelines. Putin's strategy seems to be to just constantly poke and prod, to test NATO's nerves, to create confusion, all without ever having to fire a shot. So, what did Russia actually get out of this little test? What did they learn? Well, they learned that Sweden's integration into NATO isn't just a piece of paper. It's real and it works. They learned that Swedish military tech is more than good enough to shut their toys down. And maybe most importantly, they learned that the French and their allies are not going to be easily rattled in the Baltic. In the end, the Zigulevsk was escorted away and the Charles de Gaulle continued its mission. But this whole thing leaves us with a really, really unsettling question in this murky, shadowy space between peace and all-out war. How long can this gray zone stay gray before somebody makes a mistake or a system glitches and it leads to a real fire? It's a question nobody really wants to find the answer to. If you want to stay on top of the latest updates in this new kind of conflict, make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out the video that's coming up on your screen right now.